Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is going to be a bit of a different video. I am in a little bit of a different setting. I'm still in the nursery, but I'm laying on the floor because I figured I want to be in a comfortable scenario, because I want to be in a comfortable state while talking about these things. Today's vlog is actually going to be a mental health vlog and a pregnancy after loss vlog, and just kind of talking about some important things that I think some people may want to relate to or find interested in knowing, or someone to connect with on the same kind of topic. I really find that pregnancy after loss can be a really difficult and traumatic thing. It also can be a very positive thing. And I think being able to shed the light on both perspectives kind of can guide somebody or help somebody feel a bit better of what they're going through. I know for me that positivity is number one, and you can't always be positive, especially when so much bad things are happening to you. And sometimes the accumulation of things can make you forget that there is a silver lining to everything. This video is going to be emotional. Probably, I don't know if it's going to be traumatic, and I don't know. I haven't really done the video yet. But basically, I just kind of want to talk about my mental health throughout this pregnancy, what it means to me, and what it means to have a pregnancy after a miscarriage, and just kind of go over that kind of stage, considering I think it's important for me to at least talk about it, and some people can't talk about it, so maybe this video can help them relate to it, the story, and just kind of give them a little bit of an ease, and letting them know that they're not alone. So I guess what I would say to start this off is, if you haven't watched my previous videos on my miscarriage, you should. They are lengthy, but they're very informative. I definitely think that there is a huge misconception of what it's like to have a miscarriage for women, especially with doctors' point of views. Everyone's perspective is different when it comes to miscarriages, and I think that has a huge impact on how you kind of heal and how you process the miscarriage, because there's so many other people telling you about what it is, what's going to happen, how it feels, and how you should feel, and what it's like to have a miscarriage. And sometimes it's not what people say, and sometimes it is. And I think that this is super important to talk about, because everyone's perspective and experience is so different from others, and you never know what's going to happen with you. Everyone's different. So I guess kind of thing I would like to start off is, if you want to watch my miscarriage videos, please do. They're informative. But basically, I got pregnant actually a year ago today, which is weird that I'm doing this video on exactly a year ago. Because I guess I'll start at the beginning. I first started trying in May of last year, and I didn't know how long it was going to take. I figured really long time. I figured I had this huge fear that I was not going to be able to get pregnant. I felt like I found my partner that I want to live with for the rest of my life and share a family with, and I was devastatingly fearful that I was not going to be able to have kids. And so that process already was kind of oh my god, every time I've taken a test, I was taking a test every 2 weeks after trying, and I was trying to be positive and be oh my gosh, this takes time, whatever. Anyways, flash forward to July 20th, which is also today. I took a test. I was feeling really sick that morning. Took a test. found out I was pregnant, I was like flabbergasted. I was super excited. I was like, wow, 2 months of trying and I'm pregnant already. Wow, awesome. Like, and the first month we weren't really trying. Like, it was just like, oh, we'll just start. But like, yeah, so June was like the official conception time. And so I finally got pregnant, and then July 20th, I found out I was pregnant. And I told Tyler, and we were so happy, and like, it just felt like, oh my gosh, this is it. Like, I am pregnant, I can't go back. And I spent all my weeks being pregnant, and then I had a miscarriage on my 12th week. At my 10th week appointment, I finally had my ultrasound, and that's when we were told there was no heartbeat, and that is probably not virus. And so we were really heartbroken. It was a horrible, horrible experience. I literally would not wish that upon anybody. It was really, really tough, especially for Tyler as well. Like, everyone's like, oh man, don't feel the feelings of a woman, but like, he did. And it was like the most horrible day of our lives. Seriously, it was the worst. Because we had been waiting like 8.5 years, or I guess 7.5 years. Finally try, and it was like all we ever wanted was to have a family together. Like, we were just too young, and we didn't want to take on responsibility right away. So we waited, and I was like, thank God we did, because like, we had done so much beforehand. Like, we did so much with our friends. We traveled, I would say, a lot for people who don't have the means to travel and are so young. And it felt like we were ready. So when we did, and we got pregnant, and we were told we couldn't continue the pregnancy, it was like so devastating. And just the feelings of like, really, what is going to happen, and like, what is happening. And long story short, basically, we were kind of brushed to the side. I had a really hard time with the doctors giving me answers. I had my miscarriage naturally at home right before an ultrasound that we were supposed to double check if it was actually viable or not. So that was September 20th, and so that night I had like 7 hours of miscarriage pushing. It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. And fucking traumatic. Like, I don't know what I'm going through. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's right, what's wrong, if I'm losing too much blood. It was like the craziest, like, most shocking feelings ever. Like, I can't even, unless you've gone through it, you don't really know. And you know what's crazy is that, like, literally every video I've watched, most of the people got a DNC literally a day or a week after knowing that the pregnancy wasn't viable. So I was left with a non-viable pregnancy for 2 weeks, and then finally having the miscarriage naturally at home, and then having to go through the entire miscarriage process alone with my partner because the doctors wouldn't intervene. They're like, you've already started the natural care, so you might as well continue it. But I was going through so much, like, pain and blood. Like, I was terrified that I was going to hemorrhage and I was going to die. Like, it was not a great experience at all. Like, I kept calling a doctor. I'm like, hey, I'm going through pads. Like, literally every 2 hours I was going through 2 pads. I'm like, you know, like, I'm at the limit. Like, you say 2 pads per hour, you should go in. And they said, you're fine. And I'm like, no one even did blood work. No one was doing anything for me. I felt really alone. My OB that I currently have now dropped me. They didn't care because I was no longer pregnant. So it wasn't their concern anymore. So I had to go to like the women's clinic. And like, they're all sterile and they're like, oh, you know, like this happens to 30% of women. So you should be okay, and like these are the interventions. And I'm like, just because it happens to 30%, okay, this person said 30%, 30% of women does not mean that this isn't hard. The fact that it's common doesn't mean that it's any easier. Like, it's really not any easier. You're still going through the exact same process other people are going through. And unless you've actually been through one, you can't say anything. Okay? Doesn't matter if you're a doctor and you watch it happen to other people. If you haven't been through it, you don't know what you're talking about. And basically, it was just like one of those things I'm like, oh my god, like, they think I'm just saying shit for no reason. I bled for 2.5 months straight. Like, not straight, like, it would stop for a week and then it would come back. And then it would stop for a couple days, then it would come back. And then it would stay for like long periods, like 3 weeks in a row. Then it would stop and then it would start. And it wasn't like a period. It was like clots coming out. And it was pads, like I said, like every 2 hours I was changing them. And I was fearful that I was literally bleeding to death. And they seemed to not be very care about it. Like, they were just like, oh, this happens. I'm like, okay, I get that this happens, but I'm also bleeding for way too long. And so fast forward to 8 weeks later, after my initial miscarriage, I go to the doctors and I'm like, I need an ultrasound because I'm still having cramps and I'm still bleeding. It's 2 months later. Like, you need to intervene for me because I think there's something wrong. And sure enough, they're like, oh, you still have byproduct in you, which means I still had part of the fetus in me. And I'd been telling the doctors, and I was having horrible pains. You can tell every 8 hours. And then they're like, okay, we're going to schedule a D&C. So they scheduled me a D&C a week later. So now it's 9 weeks. And so I finally get my D&C. They say it went well. Went home. Still bled. Still bled. Okay? They said, oh, this is normal because we scraped you, so you're gonna have some, like, blood coming out. Still just as much. And then it just stopped bleeding at, like, about 11 weeks. So 2 weeks after my D&C. And then other things started happening. I ended up having, like, horrible vagina spasms, horrible, like, pain in my vagina, like, literally to the point where I was going to the hospital every week. Like, every week I was going in with something, new symptom. I was like, I am not making this up. There's something wrong going on with me. You guys aren't helping me. You're not giving me answers. I'm asking you if this is normal, and you're saying, I don't know. That's not a good enough answer. I don't care who you are. You have to push for yourself to get medical care because they do not care unless you're fucking dying on the table. Basically is how it was. And I felt like I was fucking dying on the table. My vagina was hurting so bad. So I finally got some clarity from the women's clinic. They're like, so this is like 12 weeks later, so I'm like in the beginning of December. Okay, so I had my miscarriage in September 20th, and then in the beginning of December, they're like, oh, you know what, we'll give you muscle relaxant, see if that helps. It slightly helped my muscle spasms down there. But then they're like, oh, maybe you just have a pelvic floor that's like not as strong. I'm like, okay, so what do I do for that? Go to a physiotherapist. Can't go to a physiotherapist if I can't afford it. So I couldn't afford a physiotherapist to do it. And eventually they just stopped spasming after like a month of taking this stuff. But I kid you not, it was the worst experience of my life. Like, so bad. Like, the spasms were so bad. I couldn't sleep. I could barely eat. They were hurting so bad, and they couldn't explain it. They did so many exams, apparently. My pelvic floor looked normal. They're like, I don't understand. You look totally fine on the inside. We don't understand why this is happening to you. And I'm like, I do, because something must have happened with my D&C. And they're like, well, it doesn't look like there's scarring. I'm like, that doesn't mean my body isn't rejecting how it was touched and felt. Like, clearly it didn't like what happened. And they're just like, we just don't see this happen. And I'm like, so you can't give me an answer, but there's something going on with me. So basically I had a miscarriage in September 20th, like I said, and it didn't stop until after Christmas. The worst 3 months of my life, seriously. I finally got rid of my miscarriage, and then I'm like dealing with muscle spasms, and I couldn't even go on Christmas Day. I was like, literally, like, I got dressed and I was like, I really don't want to go, and I got like trashed on Christmas because I'm like, I feel like shit. I just had a miscarriage for 3 months. I'm around a bunch of people I don't want to be around right now. And like, it was just like so annoying. So I had like 3 glasses of Prosecco, and I was like, because I had lost so much blood, I was freaking wasted. And I just like went home. And it was just like, I was like, finally I stopped bleeding. Finally these spasms stopped. And I really don't know to this day what it was. It's just reaction to the DNC. I don't know. It was 3 months. Or no, at that point it was, so my DNC October 26th, I think, or 28th. So 9 weeks after my miscarriage. And wait, maybe it wasn't that. Yeah, because like 4 plus 2. It was the beginning of November. I don't know, something like that. Anyways, I had my miscarriage, had my DNC, and then like a month and a half of just pure torture after that DNC. And I was like, wow, like, it was such a blur. Like, in the moment, it was fucking horrific, but it was such a blur when I was done it. I couldn't believe what it was like for me, and this is gonna be such a long video if I don't get to the rest of this, but basically, I finally started trying. Tyler and I were like, are we really ready to start again? Like, what if this happens again? And we were like fearful. Tyler was still broken. He was so broken. Like, I was like trying to stay positive, and I couldn't believe I was the strong one out of this scenario. Like, it was so crazy how much he was affected by it, because like I didn't expect that at all. And he was just like, he didn't want to talk about it. Like, he was depressed for so long, and like, he obviously seen me go through all the pain, and he's like, what the hell, I can't even help you. And like, it was just like really tough on both of us, but like really tough on him, like emotionally tough on him, physically tough on me. And so January 1st, like, we have some friends over for New Year's, and we're just like, let's just have a good time. And then I was just like, are you ready to start trying again? I know it's been 3 months of hell, but they do say you get pregnant pretty much right away if we try again after a miscarriage, and I don't know if it's going to help you or help me get through this process a little bit better, but maybe we should just try and see how much longer it takes to get pregnant, because we don't even know. Maybe it takes 6 months this time. You just don't know. Especially going through so much trauma in my body. My body may have rejected the pregnancy again, and who knows. And so we were like, are we emotionally ready to, like, if this happens again, like, what are we gonna do? And he's just like, let's not fully try, but let's just, when we do it, like, let's see what happens. And so we had sex like 3 times in January, and apparently I got pregnant. I got pregnant literally the first time we tried. I was pregnant on New Year's Day. I got pregnant on New Year's Day, and it obviously didn't conceptualize until like the 6th or 7th or something like that. like actually fully implanted and stuff like that. But yeah, so we got pregnant again really fast, and I don't know. It's like a 50-50 shot, really, for this pregnancy to continue, or if it's going to be non-viable again. And so the whole time, Tyler, like when we found out on January 22nd, I think, I was in school. I just started a new semester, and he's like, you know, like, I can't talk about this pregnancy. Like, we can't talk about it. We can't experience how we did the first time where we were like, oh my god, we're gonna have a baby, like, and be so happy high, because we have no idea what it's like, and we don't want our hopes up. So I called my doctor. I'm like, can we please get an HCG test? I need to know if my levels are high or not. And so I took that in February. So I took my blood test, and he's like, your levels are really high, and I'm like, thank God. I'm like, that means that the pregnancy is hopefully taking, and we'll keep taking blood tests until we know where it's at. And then I took my first ultrasound February 26th, I think. Oh no, that's our anniversary date. I think I took it on the 24th or the 23rd. And let me tell you, I went to the hospital. It was the scariest thing ever after having a miscarriage. I can't tell you what it would be like unless you go through it. Honestly, it was so like, oh my god, this could be the best day of my life, or oh my god, this could be, again, the worst day of my life. And I like went to my doctor's appointment with the place I am with right now that I also was with the first time, and they dropped me. Is the only place in town. I called everywhere, and they were the only ones, because they had 10 doctors there that could take me. So I'm like, okay, this time I was very blunt with them. I'm like, this time I can't have you guys drop me, because what I went through is horrific, and I'm not experiencing that again. Like, I went to the appointment that morning, and I'm like, hey, like, just to let you know, I had you guys as my doctors, and you guys dropped me immediately when you found out I was having a miscarriage. Instead of giving me the prevention tools, talking to me about the miscarriage, and, you know, telling me what's going to happen next, you guys left me in the dust, and I had to do it and experience it all by myself, and I could do nothing about it. Nothing. There was nothing I could do. I'm not a doctor. I don't have privileges to make myself ultrasounds. I don't have anything like that. So they were like, whoa, I'm so sorry we did that. I'm like, it was an alarming thing, to be honest, and it's made me not want to come back here. But I have no choice now. And she was like, oh my gosh, this time, don't worry, we'll take care of you this time. I'm like, okay. And so I left that appointment, and I was like, you know, before I left the appointment, I was like, and I need an ultrasound immediately. I am not going through another 5 weeks without having an ultrasound. I did that last time, and I had a miscarriage, so I need it right now. And so she's like, okay, we'll see what we can do. So I left that appointment, and then I came home, fell asleep, woke up at like 2 o'clock, and apparently I missed a call. And they're like, oh my gosh, there's like an ultrasound cancellation. Do you want to get in today? I'm like, yes. They're like, it's at 3. I'm like, oh my god. And they're like, so you gotta chug water. I'm like, oh my god. Okay, so I did. Chugged the water, rushed to the hospital, and I'm like, okay, I need to decompress while I'm on my way here. I need to make sure that I understand that anything could happen right now. And I literally do not believe solely on a God. I am not that person. I'm pretty much an atheist when it comes to things like that. And this is the first time I was like, you know what, if this is a real thing, I'm just gonna do it anyways. And I like sat there in the hospital, and I quietly prayed about it, and I was just like, please just have a normal pregnancy, please know that he's healthy. And I was just like really trying to send out positive vibrations out in the world, just being like, you know what, I don't deserve anything less. Just please just make sure whatever this baby is safe. And I went into the ultrasound, and the tech was absolutely amazing. He was so nice. And after that, it was just like crazy. And he sat down, he's like, this is not gonna be what you just went through. He's like, trust me, you're gonna be better this time. And I look at him like, I really hope you're right. And so he like puts the thing over my belly, and he's like, oh my God. And I'm like, what? He's like, there's the heartbeat, it's extremely strong. And I'm like, and I broke down. I was like, holy shit, this is my moment. I finally get to see my baby's heartbeat, like for real. And I got to see it, and it was like the best experience of my life. I couldn't believe it, just seeing his heart pump. Obviously I didn't know it was a boy at the time, but his heart was pumping. And I was just like, holy crap, I wish Tyler was here. He was working. But I sent him the video that I could get, and like the ultrasound photos. And I was just like, I left the hospital just smiling ear to ear. Like, I just couldn't believe it. I was like, holy shit, like, this is my life. My baby's safe. Thank God. Literally, I thanked him because, like, I just prayed. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that maybe this just worked. But, yeah, it was like, I was over the moon happy, but, like, Tyler was happy too to know that he was safe. But from that moment on until probably about 12 weeks, actually until our ultrasound, like the more like bodied ultrasound, at my like 12 weeks, so like 8 weeks later after this ultrasound, actually I think it was, so it was like week 14 or something. It's hot. Tyler's like, we can't talk about this pregnancy. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to be getting my hopes up again. So, like, can we just not? And that was, like, really hard for me. I was, like, all I wanted to do was be excited because, like, I just found out this baby is, like, from what I know, viable. It's a heartbeat. So, basically, I respected his wishes. I was just like, I understand. It really sucks for me, but I understand. And so I just talked to my best friend the whole time about it. I would send her updates about the baby and like stuff like that. I was like very like connected with her about pregnancy because I obviously couldn't do it with my partner. And it's no fault in his own, like he deserves his own way of coping with things. And like, to be honest, going through what we went through, like I completely understand, and I was shocked that I wasn't like that. Like, I was shocked I wasn't the depressed one. When I was going through the miscarriage, I was extremely distraught. I didn't really, like, I tuned out everything. Like, everything was tuned out. Like, as far as I was concerned, nothing was happening. So I just respected his wishes, and I didn't want him to get upset. And so basically, I just talked about it with my friend the whole time. And let me tell you, I'm so grateful because my best friend had like a falling out with stuff happening in her life, and she moved to Manitoba. She had moved back to Victoria, and she was there for my first pregnancy, and she knew exactly what was going on with my miscarriage. She lived with me at the beginning of my pregnancy, then she moved out, and so she was still living in Victoria, and so she got to see my miscarriage happen and everything, and so she knew what I was going to go through again if something had happened. So she was like the first person I was talking to about it, like every single day. I was like, oh my God, like this is my pregnancy. I was giving her updates and just being very like, you know, like I don't have a partner right now, can you be mine, kind of thing, when it came to pregnancy. And yeah, so that's basically what I did. It's like, I would highly suggest having somebody as support. Like, if you don't have your partner through this, you need to reach out to your family members, you need to reach out to a friend, because I'm telling you right now, it made all the difference being able to outsource my feelings to somebody and have them respect my feelings, to understand my feelings, to emotionally process my feelings with me. It was such a dramatic change. compared to not being able to do it at all. Like, if you're stuck and not able to talk about it with anybody, you're gonna spiral. Like, you're gonna get in yourself's head, and like you're gonna just not do well. Like, your mental state will go really poorly. I am a very independent person, and so I know that is hard. Like, it was hard for me, and I'm an independent person. So definitely you need support. You need support when you're going through a miscarriage, and you need support when you're going through a new pregnancy after loss. You just need somebody to talk to. And if your partner can do that for you, amazing. But if they are, checked out like you are, you have to respect that as well, because that's how they're responding to the loss, and how they're responding to a new, hopefully new, hopeful pregnancy. But that's what I think is like super important. I want to talk about in this video is like, everyone processes things differently, and your partner might not be able to process it properly. You, as the woman, may not process this properly. Your spouse may be the one, oh my god, I'm so excited about this pregnancy, oh my gosh, and you physically, as the mom that knows, that went through it physically, could be very depressed, very checked out, very like, oh my god, negative towards this pregnancy, very like, I don't know what's going to happen with this pregnancy. Like, that's typically what happens, and it was the reverse for me. And so you need support. Whether you're the person that's emotionally drained or you're the person positive, you both need a person. You both need a person. Even if you're the positive one being like, oh my gosh, like, this is the pregnancy, you need an outlet for somebody to listen to you and to understand that you are, going through a new chapter in life and want to experience it all, even if your partner can't experience it with you. So you definitely need somebody there for you on either spectrum. Somebody that's positive, somebody who's negative, both need a connection. I was able to be that person still for Tyler, even though he wasn't there for me in that aspect. Which is okay. Like I said, people process things differently. And this is typically when people go through miscarriages, and when couples go through miscarriages, and just like go through hardship like this is what breaks people up, because they can't get the support they think they require or need or deserve. Everyone deserves their own way of processing things. Everyone deserves their own way of support. And you know what? A lot of people don't recognize that, and they think, oh, this person, isn't there for me. So how can they be there for when I'm in disarray later in life? You need somebody that like will reel you in and be like, you know what? I feel this way too. Let me live this way too. And like, you have to be honest with yourself about how you're reacting to the situation, how they're reacting to the situation, and you can't blame each other for how you feel. Like, you have to understand that just because something traumatic is happening to you, it's also happening to them, and you have to understand that you require different things. And yes, at some level, if they are not supporting you, then you probably don't have the greatest partner. And maybe you'll find that in somebody else. That doesn't necessarily mean that something traumatic happens and you both are on different spectrums. That means that you're completely different in life and that you can't be with each other. Just remember, everyone processes things differently. And if that doesn't work for you, then sure, choose somebody new. But for me, I understood that. So I was like, I understand where you're coming from, and of course I love you, and of course I'm going to stay with you, and of course I'm going to be in this committed relationship whether what happens or what doesn't happen. Of course, a lot of the times too, couples break up because they can't ever get pregnant, and that person really wants a child, and that person can't have the child. And so there's just like so many factors that go into having a relationship stay together during miscarriage or infertility issues, it's a huge thing. Like, that's another topic, you know. But mental health during these things are so up and down, you know, especially for the woman. She's, you know, having so many hormones leave her system immediately because obviously there's no pregnancy. Plus the hormones that came, you know, you are never yourself within those limits. Like, if you just had a miscarriage, your hormones are out of whack for months and months. It could take up to a year. And so you really need to respect your partner's feelings, your own feelings, understand your feelings are valid, but also understand that your support not necessarily is your partner. It has to be from somebody else. And that's like kind of like the biggest takeaway from this video, is that you really have to understand where the other person's coming from. And sometimes the process is fast, sometimes the process isn't fast. And for me, my process was like, oh my gosh, like, I would have days where it would hit me. It still hits me today. Where I'm like, oh my god, like, I lost my baby. Like, for instance, today, I found out I was pregnant, and like knowing that today means that, it's like, oh my god, like, I lost my first child. Like, to me, like, that's a milestone you'll never have. So it affects you. It affects you regardless if you have a pregnancy or not. It'll hurt you for life. Especially being a statistic now. You know, I'm a statistic. I've had a miscarriage, and it could happen again. Like, you always have the fear it's gonna happen again. And so just that even is a hard thing to grasp. But I'm definitely gonna have to do this video in 2 parts. So I'll see you guys in my next video. I have still so much to share, but this is gonna have to be cut off because I'm already at like 50 minutes. So there'll be a second part. I'm gonna collect my thoughts. And there'll be a second part to this video, and please stay tuned for it. It'll be coming in a couple days. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening. I'll see you guys next time.